It was an age when Israel's light dimmed and shadows swallowed the land. Once again, the people turned their backs on the God who had delivered them from Egypt, and once again, they abandoned the covenant that had made them his chosen nation. In their rebellion, darkness crept in like a tide at night, and judgment rose like a storm from the depths of the sea. The Lord, in his justice, delivered them into the hands of a relentless enemy, the Philistines, fierce warriors who came from distant coasts. These were not ordinary foes. They brought with them a terrifying advantage, the secret mastery of iron. While Israel still forged bronze weapons, dull, weak, and breakable, Philistine swords gleamed sharper, harder, deadlier than anything Israel had ever faced. With cold hearts and merciless hands, the Philistines seized the children of Abraham, plundered their harvests, stripped their vineyards, and trampled their pride. For 40 long years, Israel suffered humiliation and chains, groaning beneath an enemy who mocked their God and oppressed their souls. Yet even in judgment, the Lord did not abandon his people. In a forgotten village belonging to the tribe of Dan, hidden among humble hills and dusty paths, God prepared a miracle. In the barren womb of a woman who had long carried sorrow in silence, heaven stirred. From the fragile place where life once refused to bloom, God planted deliverance. A child would arise from seeming hopelessness and change the destiny of a nation. His name was Samson. His story is carved into history like thunder etched into stone, the tale of Israel's most formidable judge. A man who by sheer strength, granted by the Spirit of God, tore a roaring lion apart with his bare hands, crushed 1,000 warriors armed only with the jawbone of a donkey, and toppled an entire temple with nothing but divine power flowing through his broken body. But Samson's story is not only one of triumph, it is also a tragedy of temptation, pride, passion, and the heavy cost of disobedience. For though Samson was chosen, he was still flesh. He possessed a weakness not in his body, but in his heart, women. And his greatest enemy was not the Philistine army, but the desires that battled within him. He warred against himself long before he warred against Israel's oppressors. Only when he learned that strength without obedience is ruin, and pride without surrender is poison, did he discover the truth. His might came not from muscle, but from faith and God's Spirit. In the quiet hills of Dan, there lived a man named Manoah and his wife, a humble couple whose days unfolded in simplicity. Yet inside them dwelt a silent ache. They could not have children. In that time, barrenness was viewed not only as sadness, but as shame. To be childless felt like walking beneath a cloud of grief, like watching life bloom everywhere, except in your own home. Their sorrow mirrored the sorrow of Israel, a nation chosen yet fruitless, oppressed, weakened, and seemingly without future hope. One day as Manoah's wife worked alone in the field, sunlight suddenly intensified. A brilliant, holy radiance surrounded her, and she froze in awe as a divine figure appeared, an angel of the Lord. His voice was like calm thunder, powerful yet filled with peace. "You are barren and have borne no child, but behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son." His words poured like water into dry soil. Then came instruction: "Take great care, drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean, for you shall bear a son, and no razor shall touch his head. The boy shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb, set apart for the Most High, and he will begin the deliverance of Israel from the hands of the Philistines." Trembling with awe, overwhelmed by joy and fear, the woman ran to her husband and recounted everything she had seen and heard. Manoah, astonished, prayed earnestly, begging God to send the messenger again so they could fully understand this holy calling. And God, ever faithful, answered. The angel returned, repeating the sacred command and confirming the destiny of the promised child. A Nazirite, one consecrated for divine purpose, marked by a vow of holiness. No wine, no unclean thing, no blade to ever touch his head. He would belong wholly to the Lord. Manoah, filled with reverence, prepared an offering, simple, pure, laid upon a rock. As the flames rose heavenward, something wondrous occurred. The angel of the Lord ascended in the fire, rising into the heavens before their stunned eyes. Manoah trembled, convinced death awaited them for having seen a messenger of God. But his wife, steady and full of faith, reassured him, if God intended to destroy us, he would not have accepted our offering, nor revealed such wonders, nor given us this promise. And so from a barren womb came destiny. From silence came a cry that would shake nations. The child was born and named Samson, little son, a sign that even in the darkest oppression, God would bring a dawn. Light sparkled where despair once dwelled. From his youth, Samson was different. The Spirit of the Lord stirred within him like wind in a young oak tree, filling him with unnatural strength beyond muscle, a force from heaven. Each year he grew taller, broader, more powerful, yet the greatest struggle he faced was unseen. Inside him clashed two desires, obedience to God's call and the pull of his own passions. He wanted to honor the vow placed upon him, yet he longed to live like other men, to choose freely, to follow impulse, to satisfy the fire of his emotions. This inner battle shaped his life, and soon it would lead him into storms he did not yet understand. When Samson reached manhood, tales of his strength spread across Israel like wildfire. Yet with strength came pride, boldness, and a restless spirit. Quick to anger, quick to desire, he acted first and thought later. One day he traveled to Timnah, a Philistine city, and his eyes fell upon a woman there, beautiful, foreign, captivating. Though she belonged to the nation oppressing his people, Samson wanted her. Whether wisdom protested or tradition warned, he did not care. His heart leapt before reason could speak. When he returned home, he announced to his parents, "I have seen a woman of the Philistines. Get her for me as my wife." Their parents, shocked and pained, pleaded, "Is there no woman among your own people? Must you take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines?" They feared compromise would lead to defilement and danger. But Samson's reply was sharp and final, "Get her for me. She pleases me." To human eyes it seemed foolish and reckless, yet unseen by men was the quiet weaving of God's plan. For through Samson's choice, a confrontation would begin, a spark that would ignite conflict with Israel's enemies. So, Samson set out again towards Timnah with his parents. At one point, he stepped aside into a vineyard, a dangerous place for a Nazirite whose vow forbade wine. And there, in the stillness, a sudden roar ripped through the air. A young lion, fierce and hungry, leapt towards him. With no weapon, no armor, alone and vulnerable, Samson faced death. But the Spirit of the Lord surged within him like fire in his blood. Fear vanished, divine power replaced it. With bare hands he seized the beast and tore it apart, like a farmer tearing a young goat. Dust settled, silence returned. No one saw, he told no one. Later, when returning for the wedding, curiosity pulled him back to the carcass. Inside the dried remains, bees had made honey. He scooped it out and tasted its sweetness, then gave some to his parents, careful not to reveal its source. For though sweet on his tongue, it was bitter to his calling. He had touched death, broken his vow, and hidden his trespass. A dangerous pattern had begun, stepping close to sin, confident God's strength would remain. At last the wedding feast arrived, a lavish Philistine celebration lasting 7 days, overflowing with wine, laughter, and revelry. 30 Philistine men were appointed as companions to Samson, though they watched him with curiosity and suspicion. Surrounded by temptation, Samson sought to display his superiority. In pride, he challenged them with a riddle drawn from his secret encounter. Out of the eater came food. Out of the strong came something sweet. Solve it within 7 days, and I will give you 30 fine garments. Fail, and you owe me 30 fine garments.
On the 4th day of the great feast, desperation twisted the hearts of the Philistine companions. Fear and humiliation gnawed at them. Unable to solve the riddle and unwilling to lose honor and wealth, they made a ruthless choice. They sought out Samson's bride and cornered her with cold, merciless eyes. Their voices carried the chill of death as they threatened, "Coax your husband into revealing the answer to us, or we will burn you and your father's household to the ground. Did you call us here only to strip us bare and bring us to ruin?" Fire and dread surged within her soul. Terrified and trembling, she hurried to Samson, tears streaming, voice quivering like a reed in the wind. Leaning on his chest, sobbing, she cried, "You must hate me. You do not love me at all. You have given my people a riddle, and yet you refuse to reveal it even to me." Samson's response was sharp, cutting like flint struck against stone. "I have not even told my own father or mother," he retorted, "so why should I tell you?" But her tears did not cease. Day after day, through all the remaining hours of the feast, she pressed him relentlessly, pleading and weeping until her voice became a constant echo in his mind. Her sorrow wore him down like water, breaking stone. Finally, on the seventh day, exhausted by her persistence and weakened by emotional siege, Samson yielded. He whispered the answer into her ears, unaware that betrayal already flickered in her heart like a hidden spark waiting for air. Immediately, she rushed to her people, and before the sun dipped behind the horizon, the Philistines came boasting with smug satisfaction. "What is sweeter than honey?" they declared. "What is stronger than a lion?" Samson's heart clenched, his blood burned with betrayal. Rage shone in his eyes like lightning behind storm clouds. He stared them down and growled, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." In that harsh ancient metaphor, he accused them they had used his own wife to pry into a secret, like farmers forcing an animal to drag a plow through unwilling soil. A gain meant for honor had turned into humiliation, a festivity into disgrace. Then the Spirit of the Lord surged upon Samson with mighty force. Fury became fuel. He descended to Ashkelon, a city of the Philistines, burning with righteous anger. There he struck down 30 men, warriors and citizens alike, stripped them of their garments, and carried the plunder back to Timnah. He threw the garments before those who claimed victory, not as reward, but as judgment. Then, grief-stricken and betrayed by the woman he trusted, Samson withdrew to his father's home, wounded in heart and pride. Time passed, and Samson's fury cooled into sorrow. A longing for reconciliation stirred in his heart. He took a young goat, a sign of peace and goodwill, and journeyed to Timnah, seeking his wife, hoping to mend what had been broken. But when he arrived, her father blocked his way, pushing the door closed as if shielding a secret. "I truly believed you despised her," he confessed nervously, "so I gave her to your companion. But see, her younger sister is more beautiful still. Take her instead." In that instant, Samson's calm shattered like glass struck by a hammer. The woman he chose, the one he risked honor and peace for, had been given away like livestock, as though her heart were nothing, her devotion meaningless. A cold, deadly fury gripped Samson's spirit. His voice hardened like iron as he declared, "This time I will be without guilt when I strike the Philistines." The offense reached beyond his own pride. It was an insult to his God-given mission, to Israel's dignity, to the very covenant of his calling. Samson's mind burned with vengeance, but his plan was clever, cunning, and devastating. He sought not battle, but destruction. He roamed the wilderness and caught 300 foxes, more precisely, jackals that roamed in packs. Pairing them, he tied their tails together and fastened a flaming torch between each pair. Then he released them into the Philistine grain fields at harvest time. Flames erupted like judgment from heaven. Fire raced through wheat fields, leapt into vineyards, devoured olive orchards, and roared across the land. In a single night, prosperity turned to ash. A year's sustenance vanished. Smoke blotted the sky, fields crackled and died. The Philistine economy collapsed in a blaze of retribution. When the Philistines saw the ruin, panic surged. They demanded, "Who has done this?" The answer came swiftly: Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because his wife was given to another. Rage ignited. They marched to the Timnite's home and answered fire with fire. They burned Samson's wife and her father alive, turning the house into a tomb of screams and embers. When word reached Samson, grief like molten iron poured through him. The woman who once wept against his chest, the love that drew him into enemy land, had perished in flames because of him. Pain hardened into wrath. He lifted his voice and swore, "Since you have acted like this, I will not stop until I have taken revenge on you." And he kept his vow. Samson descended upon them like a tempest unleashed. His strength battered them like a divine hammer. The earth shook beneath his rage, and bodies littered the fields. After the slaughter, weary but unbroken, he retreated to dwell in the cave at the rock of Etam.
But the Philistines would not rest. They marched upon Judah and camped at Lehi. The men of Judah, trembling before their overlords, asked, "Why have you come against us?" The Philistines answered coldly, "We have come to seize Samson, to do to him as he has done to us." Fear consumed Judah. Instead of seeing Samson as a deliverer raised by God, they saw only danger. Rebellion frightened them more than bondage. So 3,000 men of Judah, his own people, not Philistines, but brothers, descended to Eton's cave, not to defend him, but to surrender him. They looked at Samson, not with honor, but with reproach. "Do you not know the Philistines rule over us? What have you done to us?" To their eyes, Samson was not a savior, but a threat to the uneasy peace they clung to. Yet Samson's reply cut calmly through their fear. "I only did to them what they did to me." But Judah had made their decision. "We have come to bind you and hand you over." Samson, though strong enough to crush them like twigs, recognized the hand of God in these events. He made only one request: "Swear you will not kill me yourselves." They agreed. Bound with 2 new ropes, he was led to his captors like a prisoner, though heaven watched him as a weapon being delivered to its mark. When they reached Lehi, the Philistines shouted triumphantly, believing victory assured. But in that moment, the Spirit of the Lord surged through Samson once more. The ropes burned away from his arms as though consumed by invisible flame, falling as if they had never held him. He seized the only weapon near him, the fresh jawbone of a donkey. With it, he charged. Dust swirled, cries of terror split the air, and men fell like stalks under a reaper's blade. With a crude bone, Samson struck down 1,000 warriors. When silence settled and bodies lay in heaps, Samson lifted his voice, panting and triumphant. "With a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have slain 1,000 men." But triumph gave way to weakness. Thirst gripped him. Exhaustion overwhelmed him. Near collapse, he cried out to God, "You granted me this great victory. Will you now let me die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" Compassion stirred in heaven. The ground split and water flowed like mercy made liquid. Samson drank, and his strength returned like dawn breaking after night. The place was called En-Hakkore, the spring of the caller, for it testified that God hears the desperate cry of his servant. From that day forward, Samson judged Israel for 20 years, carrying his destiny like a burning torch, a man of power and contradiction, chosen and tested, feared by enemies, and misunderstood by his own. The Philistines trembled at the mention of Samson's name. Though they still held political control over Israel, they no longer rested comfortably at night because they knew that at any hour, without warning, Samson could strike again with terrifying force. The more his reputation spread, the deeper their hatred grew. Samson was no longer just a troublesome Israelite, he had become their worst nightmare, a living legend who appeared like a phantom, destroyed whatever stood before him, and vanished again before they could grasp him. But Samson, despite all his strength and divine calling, still carried the same weakness that had plagued him since his youth, his desire for women.
This weakness would continue to shadow him like a curse. One night, driven by impulse rather than wisdom, he journeyed down to Gaza, one of the most fortified and powerful Philistine strongholds. There, amid the enemy's territory and thick city walls, patrolled by hostile soldiers, he sought out a prostitute and spent the night with her. It was reckless, almost suicidal, stepping boldly into the lion's den for a moment of brief pleasure, as though nothing and no one could touch him. But word of Samson's presence in Gaza spread quickly, racing through the city like breathless rumor on a stormy night. The Philistines lit torches, locked the massive iron bar gates, and stationed guards at every entrance and rooftop, convinced they had finally trapped the mighty Israelite. "We will wait for him at dawn," they whispered to one another with grim excitement. "When morning breaks, we will kill him." They believed that when the sun rose, Samson would awaken to find escape impossible, surrounded like prey caged for slaughter. But Samson did not wait for daylight. At midnight, when the moon still hung over the city and his enemies dreamed of his impending death, he rose quietly and approached the city's massive gates.
These were no ordinary doors. They were enormous wooden fortifications reinforced with iron bars and anchored deep in the stone ground to withstand armies and battering rams. Yet Samson seized them with his bare hands. With a roar of strength gifted from heaven, he tore the gates, posts, and bars from their foundation as though ripping branches from a tree. The weight was immense, perhaps near half a ton, but Samson lifted them onto his shoulders. Carrying the city's pride and protection as if it were nothing but a burden to be discarded, he marched for miles through the night until he reached the mountain ridge near Hebron, a high Israelite stronghold, and planted the gates there. It was a silent declaration, a humiliating message carved into stone and history itself. The Philistine defenses meant nothing. Their proud walls were powerless. Their strongest fortress was revealed to be nothing but a fragile illusion before the servant of the Lord. The story spread like lightning across the land. To the Israelites, it was a sign that God's strength still rested on their judge, a reminder that heaven had not forsaken them. But to the Philistines, it was humiliation deeper than any wound. Their symbol of power had been stolen and displayed like a trophy, mocking their pride. Rage simmered in their hearts, festering and poisonous. Yet even this astonishing act would soon fade in comparison to the calamity waiting in the shadows. For Samson, unaware that his greatest danger was not armies or gates, but a woman's deceit, stepped into a trap designed not with swords, but with words and affection. In the valley of Sorek, fate introduced him to Delilah. She was not a warrior, nor a queen, nor someone who commanded legions. Her weapon was far more subtle, a cunning spirit hidden behind a beautiful face. Samson, the man who could tear lions apart and scatter soldiers like dust beneath his feet, found himself helpless not on the battlefield, but in the presence of her charm. This was the weakness that always haunted him, the strength to conquer nations, but not the discipline to guard his heart. The Philistine rulers recognized the perfect opportunity. They approached Delilah in secret, offering her an enormous reward, 1,100 pieces of silver from each lord, a fortune beyond imagination, enough wealth to change any life forever. All she had to do was discover the secret to Samson's supernatural strength and deliver him into their hands. Delilah, her eyes filled not with love, but with greed, accepted without hesitation. Soon she began her work. With sweetness dripping from her voice and false tenderness in her gaze, she asked Samson directly, "Tell me, please, what gives you your incredible strength, and how could someone bind you and make you weak?" Samson, arrogant and amused, toyed with her curiosity. He told her, "If they tie me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have never dried, I will become weak like any other man." That very night, she tied him while he slept. Hidden soldiers waited in silence, breath held in murderous anticipation. "Samson, the Philistines are upon you," she screamed. But he woke and snapped the bowstrings effortlessly, as though they were threads singed by fire. The trap failed. The secret remained sealed. Yet Delilah did not relent. She returned to him the next day, masking her frustration with wounded emotion. "You lied to me," she said, pretending to ache with betrayal. "Tell me the truth this time." Again, Samson teased her with deception. "If they bind me with brand new ropes that have never been used, then I will become weak." The cycle repeated. The ropes were tied, the ambush set, the shout given. And once again, he rose and broke free as though snapping strands of wool. Still, his strength remained a mystery.
But Delilah's greed was tireless. With false affection and feigned disappointment, she pressed him a third time, and he offered another lie. Weaved the 7 locks of his hair into a loom. She waited until he slept, then wove his thick braids into the wooden loom, fastening them tight. Again she cried out. Again he awoke. Again he shattered the trap, tearing the loom itself from the floor as though it were a twig. 3 schemes, 3 failures. Delilah's patience evaporated. She shifted her attack, no longer pretending lightly, but striking where Samson was weakest, his emotions. She wept,
She accused, she pleaded, she insinuated that he did not love her at all. Her voice echoed in his mind day after day, wearing him down like water carving stone. Scripture says his soul was vexed unto death, the pressure so constant and suffocating that his heart grew weary and his spirit weakened. And eventually, he broke. Samson revealed everything, not merely his strength, but his vow, his calling, and his covenant with God. "A Nazirite from my mother's womb," he confessed. "If my hair is cut, my strength will leave me, and I will become like any other man." Delilah knew instantly this time he spoke truth, for his voice held no arrogance, only vulnerability. She sent word immediately, "Come again, this time he has opened his heart fully to me." The rulers returned with silver in their hands, symbols of betrayal gleaming in the darkness. Samson, exhausted and trusting the woman whose lap cradled his head, fell deeply asleep, unaware that the deadliest blow of his life was already in motion. While Samson slept in Delilah's lap, unaware of the treachery set in motion, she quietly summoned a man with a razor. In the shadows, the Philistine agent crept forward, and Delilah guided him to Samson's head. With chilling intent, he began to cut. The first lock fell, a symbol of a sacred vow violated. Then the second, followed by the third. With each curl of Nazirite hair that touched the floor, 20 long years of consecration to God unraveled strand by strand. The blades whispered through the remaining locks until the seventh and final braid fell lifeless to the ground. And in that moment, in a silence heavier than thunder, the covenant between Samson and the Lord was broken. Scripture captures this devastating moment in a phrase sparse yet dreadful. "And his strength left him." All the power that once roared through his veins, all the divine might that had shaken nations, vanished in a breath. Then Delilah, fully satisfied with her betrayal, lifted her voice and cried one last time, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you!" Samson stirred, waking with the same casual confidence he had always carried. But this time, something was terribly different. He did not realize and could not yet comprehend that the Spirit of the Lord had departed from him. He stretched his arms to break his bonds, but his strength was gone. His muscles, once charged with divine power, felt weak, ordinary, human. Israel's unstoppable champion had become just another man. The Philistines swarmed him instantly, seizing the once mighty warrior, and then, in an act of brutal triumph, they gouged out his eyes. Darkness swallowed him forever. In one cruel moment, they robbed him not only of his physical vision, but of the very symbol of his pride and freedom. Blind, disoriented, and broken, Samson was chained with heavy bronze shackles, dragged like a captured animal back to Gaza. There, the same city whose gates he once tore from the ground now watched him arrive as a prisoner and trophy of shame. In the depths of a Philistine prison, he was forced to grind grain like a beast, a task reserved for slaves and livestock. The strongest man of his era, the judge of Israel, once feared by armies, now pushed a millstone in chains as crowds mocked him. The mighty warrior humbled to dust, the hero reduced to humiliation. But what the Philistines failed to see was that in the darkness of that prison cell, something holy and quiet began to take place, an inner rebirth. Samson had lost his sight, his pride, his freedom, and the power that once defined him. But in losing everything he had trusted, he finally saw the truth he never grasped while he stood invincible. He learned that real strength had never flowed from his hair or from his muscles. It had always come from God and from a life surrendered to Him. As he walked in blindness, he gained spiritual vision. Day by day, as he labored in chains, Samson reflected. He understood that God had not abandoned him simply because hair was cut, but because Samson's heart had drifted far from obedience. He had treated his vow carelessly, flirting with temptation, believing that God's blessing was guaranteed no matter how recklessly he lived. But the prison walls became his teacher. In his lowest moment, he realized his true weakness wasn't Delilah or the Philistines, it was his own pride and independence from God. And then, with time, the miracle began, small and unnoticed at first. His hair started to grow again. Each strand was a symbol of new grace, of hope rekindled, of a covenant that, though broken, could still be restored by repentance.
Samson was not finished. God was not done. In their arrogance, the Philistines planned a celebration, not merely a religious ritual, but a national demonstration of pride. They gathered in the massive temple of Dagon, their sea god, half fish and half man, believed to be the father of Baal and the guardian of their prosperity. They wanted to declare publicly that Dagon had triumphed over Yahweh, that the God of Israel had been humiliated, his champion delivered helpless into their hands. The temple teemed with excitement. Over 3,000 men and women crowded onto the roof and upper galleries, while rulers, commanders, nobles, and the political elite filled the hall below. It was a carnival of mockery, a national celebration of Samson's downfall. Then, in cruel spectacle, they commanded that he be brought out, not as a warrior, but as entertainment. Blind, scarred, and weakened, Samson shuffled into the center of the temple, led by a young servant. His empty eye sockets stared into darkness, his once towering presence reduced to a staggering captive. Laughter thundered through the hall at the sight of the man who once terrorized their armies. But as the crowd sneered, Samson quietly leaned toward the boy guiding him. "Place me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple," he whispered softly, "so I may rest against them." The boy, unsuspecting and unaware of the storm rising in this broken man, led him to the two great pillars of stone and wood, columns on which the entire roof rested. He placed his right hand on one and his left on the other, feeling the rough surface beneath his palms. Beneath the taunts of the crowd, a sacred resolve formed in his heart. This was not vengeance born of rage alone. It was purpose, restored faith, and destiny calling. And there, amid the roar of revelry and blasphemy, Samson lifted his voice to the heavens. His final prayer rose not in arrogance, but in humility. "Lord God, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me just once, O God, that I may be avenged upon the Philistines for my two eyes." In these words, he revealed all he had learned: surrender, dependence, faith. He was not asking to live again, to reign again, or to rebuild glory, only to fulfill his divine mission one last time. He braced himself. The air trembled. He inhaled deeply, feeling the stone beneath his hands, the spirit returning to his bones. Then, with a final cry echoing through the pillars like a thunderclap, he declared, "Let me die with the Philistines." He pushed. The pillars cracked, the roof shuddered, laughter turned to horror as screams burst forth, the mighty structure groaned, splintering under divine force. In one cataclysmic moment, the temple collapsed, burying rulers, soldiers, priests, and crowds beneath its weight. Dust darkened the sky. Stones crashed in an avalanche of judgment. The city shook. And in that single act, Samson slew more in his death than he had in all his life combined. He lay beneath the rubble, lifeless yet victorious. His final breath had not been defeat. It was destiny completed. Samson, who had judged Israel for 20 years, gave his life to accomplish the mission God had spoken even before his birth. He will begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines. When the dust settled and silence covered Gaza, Samson's brothers and family came to retrieve his body.
They carried him home and buried him in his father's tomb. And there lay the man who once stood unmatched in strength, whose failures cut deep, but whose final act fulfilled heaven's purpose. His legacy echoes through generations, a solemn reminder that a man may possess extraordinary gifts, but without faithfulness, those gifts can lead to ruin. Yet also a message of grace. Even in ruin, God can redeem. Even at our lowest, He can restore purpose. Samson lost his physical eyes, but gained spiritual sight. He discovered that true strength is not in power, but in dependence on God. What Samson could never achieve in pride, he accomplished in surrender. In weakness, he found victory. In death, he fulfilled his calling. His story whispers across time. When we trust God in our darkest hour, His strength becomes perfect in our weakness. And this message now reaches you. Perhaps you stand where Samson once stood, broken, weary, thinking your story has ended. But if you turn to the Lord, He can transform your fall into foundation, your tears into testimony, and your weakness into the very place His glory shines brightest.
If this story touched your heart, share it. Someone you know may be standing on the edge of despair, needing this hope. Support this teaching with a like. And if you want to hear the story of Solomon, the wisest king Israel ever knew, or Isaiah, the prophet who saw the mysteries of the end times revealed by God, their powerful stories are waiting for you. May God bless you and your family richly. Go forward, strengthened in faith. For with the Lord, even your darkest valley can become the beginning of a greater victory.